Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry this is so late. I have been swamped with meetings all day and I just came out maybe half an hour ago. I try to make my classes the most important thing, but sometimes meetings take over. Um, I hope the extension helped having that 24-hour extra. I'm really sorry that I can't do like eternal extensions. The semester ends in December and we have some work that we need to do, so my apologies that I can't be super flexible about these things. I realize that time management is an issue when you have an online class. It's so much easier when you just have to be in a room and go home and do homework at night. Online classes are different. They really are. And it takes some getting used to. It took me some getting used to when I started doing these. But I think they work, and so I'm hoping that you're enjoying it. And I'm sorry that my flexibility has a limit. Um, Film noir, great discussion. Oh my God, I love the examples, the modern and the old examples, examples from the essay, examples from contemporary films and television. And I especially loved how you used the quotes from Krutnik. It sort of proved to me that you're sort of looking for things, and that was really nice. As a teacher, that was very exciting. So that was really quite wonderful. I don't have a lot to say. I know I always say that, but I really think I don't have a lot to say today. I don't need to talk about Noir City. You did that beautifully. And if you guys want to have a little more information on that, go back to the discussion and look at the post because you guys did that really well. I'm really excited about that. I wanted to talk a little bit about the femme fatale. Um, I I love one observation that you guys had that one of the interesting things about this image is that it is also a stereotype. That yes, it is a rejection of a certain kind of woman, the sort of housewife, that the femme fatale is a rejection of domestication. That's really quite true, but it also sort of creates a frame that limits women as well. I wanted to point something out that you didn't discuss, and partly because Krutnik doesn't talk about it, but I think it's important to keep in mind that on the one hand, the femme fatale is really a new image of woman in Hollywood film by being so independent and so strong and so much in control about the things that she does. But I don't want you to forget something that at the end of the story, femme fatales have two outcomes. They either get punished, usually killed, or they get domesticated. They get married, they are put in prison, they are in some sort of way, in a way controlled once again. And so even though we have images of women that are really strong on cinema at this time, late 30s, 40s, and 50s, the narrative doesn't let them be independent at the end. And so there has to be some sort of controlling them again. And so this is one of the really tricky things about the femme fatale, that we get to see that image, but that image gets sort of taken away from us. Women cannot remain independent at the end. Women need to be punished in some way, or they need to be domesticated. And so keep that in mind, because for the film that we're going to see, it's really important that you keep that. Don't forget that movies are made by directors and writers and producers and technicians. And so the story is very important, and what happens to the characters in the story. It's really important. So good stuff there. Gemeinschaft, Gesellschaft. Beautiful discussion. I love that you went online, did a little bit of research. All of a sudden, my students were doing social theory. It was really great. I want you to remember something that I said when we talked about Simmel and when we talked about Williams. Don't think about these terms as absolutes. Don't think that the city is a Gesellschaft and the countryside or the small town is Gemeinschaft. You can have both of them in the city. You can have community relations and you can have isolation in the city. What Krutnik is saying is that noir stresses Gesellschaft in the city, that it sort of focuses on those really calculated, cold relations, and not so much the Gemeinschaft that he talks about. This is one of the interesting things about It's a Wonderful Life, that part of what happens in there is that it is a community, that when we see that alternative world of Bedford Falls, is that all of a sudden when it turns into Pottersville, is all Gesellschaft. It's all noir. And so that's the point that he's trying to make. But don't think of them as one exists in one place and the other exists in the other. There is community in the city too. It's just that noir doesn't stress it. The last thing I wanted to say is about the obliteration of home. And you did discuss that really well. I want to add something to it. Part of what happens with this notion of the obliteration of home is that most of what noir films, the spaces that most of the noir characters inhabit, are in public spaces. We're in bars, we're in streets, we're in alleys, we're in restaurants, we're in clubs. And when we are in private spaces, when we are in an office, when we are in a house, it doesn't feel like a safe place. It feels very much like it's not a haven. It's not home. It's not a comfort place. And so think about that obliteration of home, both in its literal way and in its metaphoric way. That even the spaces that should feel like home don't feel like home. And that's going to be also really important for the film that we're going to see for this coming paper. Remember that because I extended the discussion until last night, I'm extending the paper until Monday night. So you have a little bit of time to work on it. Double Indemnity is an amazing film. Oh my God, it is one of the most wonderful film noirs that I have ever seen. And so I wanted to share this one with you. If you're a film major, you might have seen it. If you've never seen film noir, and it's sort of exciting that some of you haven't, it's sort of nice to have film noir virgins. It's really fun because that way you get exposed to something that you haven't. And so maybe some of you have seen it. So I want you to see it with the eyes of our class of Urban Images in Media and Film. And that should work really quite well. And so read the instructions carefully, watch this video wrap up, and if you are still listening to me, and go back to the discussion because you guys did some beautiful work with the essay. All right, have a wonderful weekend. If you have any issues, please email me. All right, hope all is well. Bye. And let's click that button.